Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Awesome Finds. Now I put together a small batch of punk themed albums I want to share with you guys. Some of these I recently picked up and some I've been hanging on to for quite a while until I had enough to make one themed episode. So without further ado, let's begin. The first three actually came from one seller at a flea market. I think I paid about $5 each for these. First one is the debut, well, it's the debut LP by Bad Religion. They actually had a 7-inch EP that came out before this, but this is considered their debut LP. This is How Could Hell Be Any Worse? And this is a shot of Hollywood looking towards the Capitol Records building. It's changed a little bit. There's the 101 freeway, which I often go on. On the back here, you have a picture of Dante's Inferno. Overall, it's a very solid effort. I did some research and I looked it up, and this is actually a first pressing. They only made 10,000 in their first run, so considering its age, it's held up quite well. It's a little beat up, but the record is actually in quite good shape. I cleaned it up and it sounds great. Doesn't skip at all, pops a little bit, but really not bad. It's interesting because it says side A here and then side double A, which is normally side B. It also came with this double-sided photo and lyric sheet, which is pretty cool actually. Looks very handmade, just sort of photocopied. I really enjoyed that album, but the one I'm really looking for is their follow-up, which they went in a completely different direction, and their fans hated it, but it was critically acclaimed. They were embarrassed by it for a long time, and it was out of print, and vinyl copies are very expensive. So let me know if you guys have a copy, or if you've heard that album, let me know what you think. Following that, I got this live album by The Exploited, and it's titled On Stage. This is a live collector's album, colored vinyl. I like how the back is kind of the reverse of that, sort of the negative flip side. Also lists a couple other albums you can pick up. This record it's okay. I guess if I was more of a fan of this band, I might like it more. It's definitely a window into this time. The live sound is very interesting. It really is a slice of life. That's what I really enjoyed about this album. Overall though, it all kind of feels samey after a while. I think the most interesting bits are when they are not playing and they're talking to the audience, and the audience is chanting back to them or doing different things. That to me is so interesting. I will say that the record doesn't sound great. It's on this orange vinyl. It has a lot of surface noise. In this bright light, you can see a lot of surface scratches and scuffs. So it hasn't been treated very well over the years, and by and large, color vinyl will have more surface noise in general, even if it was in near mint condition. But this was very noticeable, but ultimately with this style of music, it's not that big of a deal. And lastly, out of that trio of records, I picked up Suicidal Tendencies, and this is their debut LP. This is when they were more of a hardcore punk band before they sort of transitioned into more of a metal band, which I actually was not aware of. Bordering their image, they have these images of fan shirts. I'm assuming they're fan shirts. I love the homemade feel of supporting your band in this way, and it's definitely a punk thing to do. I really like that. And on the back there, I believe, yeah, you get more images. The big hit off of here was Institutionalized. They even had some MTV play with this song, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's a nice record to have in the collection. It's definitely an important one. I think it is a milestone, a genre marker in many ways, especially in the SoCal punk scene at this time. Here's the record itself. Now, it is a little dirty, a little scuffed up. It does play all the way through. It's got a little bit of dishing going on, but overall, yeah, it's not bad. And considering that this is an original issue, I think it's held up pretty well. All right, so next up is a record I picked up from Goodwill. And this is it's kind of a funny story because I don't know if you guys do this a lot, but you know, when you dig, there's gonna be other people digging around you, and sometimes they have a pile, like a maybe pile, right? And they're going through it. And I noticed off to the side as I was digging, there was, I would call them not so serious shoppers. I don't know, I think they were just kind of looking through records for props. And this was left in their maybe pile. When they walked away from this, I immediately grabbed it because I knew this was something special. So this is called This Is Boston, Not LA, which is kind of an interesting record to bring up in terms of the last few records I just showed you, which was very LA punk band. So the Boston scene, very different. They didn't want to be associated with that. And you can see this gentleman's got a Discord shirt on. So this is a comp, and from what I gather, it's a very well-known compilation, one that tends to go for a lot of money, and it's actually been reissued. Newberry Comics has a version of this, I think on red, white, and blue vinyl. So if you're interested and you don't want to pay a lot of money for it, I'd say check out that version. Now this one, for a Goodwill record, it's a cool find. Obviously it's not in the best shape, especially this cover. It's got a big kind of tear on it, but otherwise it's held up pretty well over the years. This one probably could use another bath in my record cleaner. Surprise, yeah, there's definitely some gunk on here, but I'll go ahead and clean that a little bit later and give it another whirl. Overall, these songs are so short that, I don't know, I'm still on the fence about this album. I feel like I need to give it a couple more spins before I give a final judgment on it, but so far it's not one of my favorites. A lot of the songs are so quick, so brash, that I can't understand what's going on, so I think that impairs my appreciation of this album. But it's highly sought after, and it's been reissued, so something tells me that there's more to discover with this album, so I'm looking forward to that. Lastly, I want to just show you, this is the original inner sleeve, and it's got lyrics, which is very helpful for a lot of these songs. Oh, that's so interesting. So this is something I'm just discovering now. And it says down here, if your group has a hardcore record to sell, send a sample to our retail store, Newberry Comics, at the above address. That's so amazing. I had no idea Newberry Comics was that old. Wow, that's really neat. So I definitely need to give this record another spin, but let me know what you guys think. Next up, I got two Clash albums. The first one I picked up at Goodwill, and this is Black Market Clash from 1980. I guess you consider this an EP. I don't know, they did put this out on 12-inch, so maybe it's an album, but regardless, it's a compilation, and it was made specifically for the US and Canadian markets. I believe it also was sent out to several countries in Europe as well as Australia. So you can find different copies depending on where you live. This was put out between London Calling and Sandinista, and it was full of basically UK B-sides or rare singles that never came out here in the US. And it was a way to put these all onto one album and get it out to their fans while they were still working on their follow-up album, Sandinista. So you have a lot of different songs from 1977, 78, 79, and then you got stuff in 1980. So it sort of spans the last 3 years that they were working on stuff. And this was under Epic's new sort of side label project called New Disc. They had put out a couple other 10 inches of other bands. I forget exactly where they were going with that. But anyway, that's Black Market Clash. So moving on to the next Clash album, these last two records came from Vacation Vinyl, my local record shop. I actually did a trade with Mark, the owner, and the trade worked out that I was able to get these two records at no additional cost. So the first record I got from him was the massive Sandinista by The Clash from 1980, and this is a record I've been looking for a while. I've heard mixed reviews on it. Some people say it's amazing, other people say it's awful, it's terrible. I got a chance to listen to it one time through. I enjoyed it. I thought there's a lot going on here. It might be too early to say, but I really feel like this is The Clash's White Album. This is a lot more reggae influence, ska influence, a lot more Jamaican influence than I would say their previous albums. One of my favorite songs off of here is Charlie Don't Surf. I really, really enjoyed that song. I will say that if you're looking to pick up this album, just know that it's not gonna be your typical poppy Clash. This is a lot more introverted, a lot more experimental. There's a lot of different things going on, and some songs don't end pretty. So just be forewarned that this is a very different side of The Clash, and I really enjoyed it. It came with, I guess it's a poster. I'm not really sure what to call it exactly, but it's basically, you got your lyrics and some images on here and legal stuff, but it's sort of, it's laid out very oddly. Some of it you kind of have to keep spinning it around and around. The records, I probably won't show you all of them, but they're all in really good condition. I did end up cleaning all of them, and you can see it's just got these classic 80s epic labels right there. Yeah, Sandinista, what an experience. If you haven't listened to it, you gotta put it on at least once. All right, last up is a record by a band that has a personal connection to me. This is Good Riddance. The album is Ballads from the Revolution, and this is the record I know very well from my youth. Good Riddance at one time was probably the biggest band in Santa Cruz from Santa Cruz. I remember in high school, like that's all kids would talk about. Oh, you guys going to the Good Riddance show? And I'd be like, who's Good Riddance? I should go check them out. And the one show I went to, it was my first experience in the mosh pit. Granted, I didn't last very long, but it was sort of a coming of age experience to say the least. And so I ended up picking up this album on CD, and I don't know what happened to that, but it was so cool to see this on vinyl. This is on Fat Records, and it just brings back so many memories for me. I can't get enough of it. And it actually is a really good album. If you guys have never heard it, I encourage you guys to check it out. It comes with a lyric sheet, and on the other side, it's just kind of a rehash of the front cover font lettering right there. The interesting part too is they had two different vinyl pressings. This one just happens to be the blue vinyl. They also had one on black. As far as I understand it, this has not been reissued. So if you're looking to pick up a copy, they're not too expensive, but you're gonna have to pick up a vintage copy. That's weird to say, 98, is that vintage? Almost, it's almost technically vintage. Crazy. Well, that'll do it for me. I wanna thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Until then, I'm your vinyl geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Hey guys, thanks again for checking out this episode of Awesome Finds. Now, if you're hungry for more, I linked a playlist that you can go ahead and click on to watch more episodes of Awesome Finds. You can also subscribe or check me out on social media. I put my links right there.